Welcome to Junkyard Theory, everybody. Tonight's guest is none other than the amazing, the incredible Louis Leterrier. He's directed movies such as Clash of the Titans, one of my favorites, Unleashed, Now You See Me, Transporter 1, 2, and of course, the Incredible Hulk. Louis, thank you so much for joining. Bonjour, mon ami, and
Bonjour. Look at you. How's your French to me? Hold on, let me do it. So sorry, everyone. I'm in traffic. I'm going to work. I thought it was a podcast, but hold on, like that. Ayubowan, Sri Lanka. Ayubowan, Akash. There you go. So yeah, look, guys, I'm not kidding. I'm driving. This is the PCH. That's the Atlantic Ocean. We're in Malibu. There you go. It's rainy day. Now let's start the podcast.
Louis is giving us a very special taste of his whole action director vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah. As an action director, not just do a static shot. It's always a moving shot.
Always dynamic. That's what we want.
There's no car chase, but let's see.
Awesome, Louis. You gave us a pretty damn good origin story when it came to the Hulk, but we want to start off with your origin story. How would you get into film, man?
Well, in a very boring way, because my parents are filmmakers. My father is a director. My mom is a costume designer. All my life and childhood, I had actors, directors come to my home, everything. So it was like, for me, film was just normal. It was life. It was just like the normal thing that your parents do. But that was the job, film. But at the same time, I loved film, but like loved it. I was watching movies all the time, because they were filmmakers, they were gone all the time. So I was left with my Betamax first, then VHS. Yes, I'm that old, Betamax. But Betamax and VHS, and then I was watching tapes, and then TV, and then going a lot to the movies. Alone by myself very early on, and then with my grandmother and friends, and then I started making movies when I was 8. So at 8 years old, I was directing little short films, Super 8 short films. Didn't have a little video camera, and then there was a contest when I was 14. And the contest was like, make a cool horror movie, and then you can win this really cool VHS-C super high, amazing JVC camera. And I did it, borrowed some, friend's father camera, and we made this horror movie, and I won that camera. So afterwards, I had like access to this thing. Now it's easy because it's easier. Really can make movies off their phone and everything. But then it was a little harder. But I had this cool camera, this video deck. I could actually do my stuff. So every weekend I was making films. But it was like, it's something I loved. But it was not going to be my. I thought it was not going to be my profession, because, you don't want to do what mom and dad do. Sort of like. So I was just like. And also, my other passion was music, and I was a musician. I was drumming. I was like a drummer in a few bands, and then so I was on tour, and I was like, okay, that's maybe what I'll do. I'll be a musician. But then one day on tour, I realized that was not, I was okay, but I would never be that great. And my real passion was really movies. It's kind of like, you pick between, the two person that you love, and then eventually you pick up the person that you love the most. So the profession I loved the most was still movies. and then but I didn't think I would become a director. I thought I could get a job in the movie industry as an AD, as a camera operator, as an editor, as all that stuff, which I knew how to do because I was shooting films. But so I went to film school, but I didn't want to go to film school in France, because the movies that actually spoke to me when I was young, they were more American movies. They were like Spielberg movies, obviously the Star Wars, the George Lucas movies, the Zemeckis movies, Sam Raimi, John Landis. These were the movies that really spoke to me. And like, there's been visual effects weren't it's not so much about the visual effects, it's kind of like the world creation. And then, you know, there were movies, but they were like, you know, pure entertainment in France was just comedy. And I wanted to do comedy, of course, I love that, but even, you know, just a little bit more and everything. So we broke the piggy bank, and then they sent me to, my parents accepted to send me to America, but to NYU in New York, because they were like, oh, don't go all the way to LA, you know, you'll lose your soul there. Stay in New York, so at least, you know, you're 6 hours away, you can come back. And you have like, you know, like it's an in-between. So I went there and never came back. Came back a little bit, but really, you know, once I started there, it was just, I was in heaven, really in heaven. And then that's it. That's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Brilliant. So you also said you were a drummer. Have you do you still drum, or have you like kind of given that up completely?
Well, I mean, I can, you know, drum. I can drum, but like, you know, drumming alone is kind of boring. But I absolutely can. But I don't have a band anymore. But yeah, it's not a great instrument to play alone, you know. And also when you have neighbors and a family, it's because I'm a loud drummer. It's very loud. A big long arm. So yeah. So I, you know, I'm a drummer, but like, yeah, don't tell me to just do a drum solo. You know, I won't be able to do that right now.
Any transferable skills that you kind of learned during your tenure as a drummer? I mean, like transferable skills from being a musician, and you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually a good question. It's funny you say that, because that you're the first one to ask me this question, and I've thought about this often. No, but it's truly, and so that's a really good question. Yes, I'd say yes, absolutely. Obviously, you know, there's a great sense. You know, I've got a good sense of rhythm thanks to the drumming. Got a good sense of how to, like, because I was doing a lot of, you know, different, you know, jazz, funk, rock, all that stuff, and so you get a good sense, and also improvisation and jamming and all that stuff. So you get a good sense of how to build something to a crescendo, build something to, you know. So whether it's a piece of music, or it's a scene from a movie, or it's the whole movie, that you get a sense of that. And then the last thing, and I think it's important, is the ability to work together with a band, and your crew is your band, and your actors are your band, and you let your lead guitar player go for, you know, his crazy 5-minute solo, and you're like, oh, but you do the same thing with your actor, and out of this 5-minute solo in the recording session, like 30 seconds is absolutely genius. Same thing for your actor when you do comedies and you improvise. So it's a really good question. Like, no one has ever asked me this, so look at you.
It was really curious, because I saw somewhere that, you know, you said you used to be a drummer. I was like, all right, so kind of makes sense. You know, action is pretty much rhythm, and you do that really well. So there's probably something in there that he borrowed from music.
Yeah, no, it's true. And also, yeah, action, and I am, you know, I am not at all a fighter, a violent person. I don't like watching boxing matches or MMA or any of that stuff. Yet for me, action is fun. And when I did martial art movies, they're fun because it's like there's a choreography. It's kind of a dance, you know. And then it's fun to play. Then it's fun to play with your composers, or, you know, get a piece of music and then sing the hits to the beats, but also, you know, the downbeat. And so you go like, so for example, there's a lot of, I don't know if you remember, there was like a trailer for Clash of the Titans, my movie, and we sung the giant scorpion, the scorpion's tail hitting the people, like chung chung, you know, on the song.
Yeah.
I think it was like
that.
Yeah, and it was really cool. You know, it was like, yeah, all that stuff just made me. And in Unleash, the movie that you really like, there were, you know, I worked closely with Massive Attack, and we were like really working on it. So yeah, music, drums, just a sense also of entertainment, of spectacle, of like, you know, playing with the audience. Because after this, I was a DJ, and same things. Like you play with the crowd, as a DJ. So you make it grow. Then you go downbeat. Then you change the beat. Then you do something. Same thing. It's exactly the same thing I'm doing.
Exactly. And I want to come to Unleashed and all, Rhythm once more. But before that, you said you used to make short films as well. And how did that practice kind of like carry over into feature filmmaking? Because I mean, those are two entirely different worlds. Although you are telling stories, it's kind of the narratives, the length kind of varies. So how did that help you out?
Yeah, but ultimately, it's even when you do commercials or an art piece and everything, you still tell a story. You try to convey an emotion, convey a message, convey a feeling, convey. So it's the same thing. It's just very short films. Short films they always have. It's always like it's one thing. It's like one feeling. I mean, for me, the ideal short film always ends up with like you have one overall feeling and one conclusion. Whereas movies. And now that I'm doing long-form TV shows, you have, the tunnel, a plethora. It's the same. It's just like it's kind of like, I never call myself an artist, but as an artist,
we kind of lost you there a little bit when you were in the tunnel.
Oh, sorry. I hate calling myself an artist, but can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello? Sorry.
Yeah.
There.
No worries.
The police is out. The police is chasing me. It's just I have a bigger canvas. Here's the thing, like a short film is a short. You have a small canvas, and you're most of the time limited by your what you can, the number of colors you have and the number of brushes you can use and all that stuff. But still, you have to convey one thing. It's very important. Everything, big feature film period. That you got a bigger canvas, and then big super production, massive feature film. Then you have a huge canvas with the best colors, with the best brushes, with the best all that stuff. But it doesn't mean that you're going to make the best painting. It gives you more opportunities and possibilities to just expand your world. That's it.
Gotcha. You mentioned working on long-form TV as well, and you did Dark Crystal and Lupin, which is something that I really enjoyed again. And working in TV and movies, like the storytelling aspect again, which one do you prefer? Because in TV, you can kind of like layer by layer reveal information, whereas in TV, it's like 2 hours max, you're done.
Yeah. Movie. Yeah, the thing is, it's not so much this. It's kind of like it's where like I didn't love old TV. Like I grew up, I didn't love like certain formats of TV, like sitcom and stuff like that. It's just like find them too formulaic and everything. But now TV with all the streaming platforms have expanded so much. That's sort of like 10 years ago, I saw an opening. I saw the tide shifting a little bit, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to put all my eggs in the same feature film basket, and I want to diversify a little bit, and I want to diversify how I tell stories. And I approached Netflix. It was like the very beginning of them getting independently creative and doing House of Cards and maybe even like that was even before Stranger Things. And I approached them with Dark Crystal. We approached them with a Hanson company, and because I wanted to tell that Dark Crystal was before that was supposed to be a feature film, but that I realized that again, that's a good thing. It's like a good example. I realized that the canvas of a feature film would be too small to tell the story of the Dark Crystal, the prequel to the creation of this world and everything. It's kind of like I could do one movie, but then leave everybody sort of like waiting for more. Whereas coming for realizing what I could do with Netflix, which is also the whole thing of like every episode dropping at once, it gives you the opportunity as a fan, as a Dungeons member, if you want to watch the whole thing as one. So in a sense, I was making a 10-hour movie. So I approached them, and then so I told them what I wanted to do, and they said, yeah, absolutely, let's do that together, and that was great. But that was 8 years ago, and then Netflix now, the way people watch Netflix or other streaming platforms is very different than how they watch regular TV movies. It's very different. So I learned from my Dark Crystal experience, and now on Lupin I did something different, because again I came to Netflix with another idea, but I said now I want to do it quite differently, and I want to make it, bouncy and bubbly and full of mixing tones and doing all that stuff, and also on a shorter scale, half season, full seasons, 5 episodes, full seasons, 45-minute episodes, like shorter, a shorter scope.
Yeah.
And I think that was the one actually, I sort of figured out the Matrix, the Matrix at the time. That's why it was successful, I think, because it was sort of it's how people, it's the type of shows that people like, with the type of actor that they like, the type of story that they love, and they at the right length and right time. So that's what I did. But it's ever changing, and nowadays it's very difficult because everything is changing. Like no one knows where we're going. So we're sort of like, it's exciting because at the same time there's great opportunities. I mean, it's so busy. Like for example, I'm doing a movie right now, a big one with Netflix. It's so hard to find crew because everybody's busy, everybody's shooting, and it's great. It's amazing. It means that for the audience, it's amazing. There's going to be like so much stuff, so many like continuation of stories, but also so many new stories. So yeah, it's a very exciting time. It's it feels like it's the new early days of filmmaking, of studio creating and filmmaking. So interesting.
Yeah. Literally the best time to be a creator of any sorts.
Yeah, it is, and at the same time, it's also the scariest time because it's obviously
True.
There's so much, but at the same time, the audience doesn't have that much time to watch all that stuff. So there's the selected few successful ones will be the lucky ones, and then a lot of stuff. There'll be a lot of shows and TV that won't be watched, and that's or won't be watched now. The good thing about Netflix, for example, is Netflix and other streaming platforms, is that it's not because you don't watch it the day it comes out that it's not fresh and new for you. So you can discover something like I discover stuff on Netflix or other streaming platforms that I hadn't seen because I was shooting or busy or doing some. Sorry, it's just I'm bumping. It's action. There's new stuff that I'm discovering, and it still feels fresh and new, and it's perfectly. No, it's not like I'm renting an old scratchy VHS tape from a video club. It's like perfectly new Atmos sound, 4K picture at the Dolby Vision, and I've got like the best version of what the filmmaker wanted me to see, and that's great. It's amazing, and I think that will change that too. And so it's great. It's scary. It's exciting. It's all of the above. But yeah, I'm happy. I'm having a great time.
True. I want to go back to your first movie, The Transporter, and you were prepping this
exactly like
film.
this. Looked exactly like my movie right now. Just that car.
Do you have someone in your trunk?
Yeah, exactly. Shut up! Stop. Yeah. I think I'm gonna get arrested for this podcast. They'll find me. They're like, "Yeah, you've been holding your phone for an hour."
Well, at least you could try going on a high-speed chase, I guess.
Complete insanity.
Every filmmaker kind of has to.
Exactly.
But speaking of Transporter, you were prepping the movie for Corey Yuan to come and take over, but he did not, and then you had to take up the directorial reins yourself. How anxious were you making
I was, but I was, I was, and at the same time, it's because I'd prepped it for, and he was like very present. He was doing the fight choreography, but he was not directing. But it was just help. It felt like I was helping. Like I was like every day. I thought that maybe he would, wake up that day and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to direct it now. So every day I felt like every day could be my last day shooting. So I was just making sure I had fun doing that. So that's pretty much how I conceived my, sort of like came to set every day with this attitude of like, all right, that's my last day directing a movie. Let's go. It's gonna be great. And then that was fun. That was when you do. I don't know how long we shot, but a 50-day shoot where every day is your favorite day because you're living a dream. It's exciting and never really stressful.
I've got a comment here from Lisa. If Billie Eilish can do interviews in the car, you can too. Just had to read that out.
Thank you. Yes.
And what's your pre-production process like? I don't know if it's like different for every single movie, but what's it usually like on average?
Pre-production? Well,
yeah.
It's sort of like figuring out the movie. It's funny, François Truffaut, the French director, he said, shoot your movie against your script, i.e. your pre-production, and then edit your movie against the shoot. So it's kind of like pre-production, you sort of like make the movie in your head, you build this, you polish the script, you cast everyone, you select your team and everything. But eventually, the movie that you had in mind, and you storyboard a lot and you do all that stuff, and then you come on set and then it's raining and whatever, the actor is sick and this and that, or we have a better idea, and then you sort of like improvise a little bit on the day and it's better. So pre-production for me, it's sort of like I gather enough strength and ammunition and and whatever, like ideas to be able to improvise freely and know where I want to go, but at the same time give myself some some wiggle room. But it's interesting. Pre-production and post-production. That's the only time where you sort of like, and for example, where I'm going now to my office, I have the whole movie on the wall with a lot of design and all the actors and all that stuff, and you get to really like take a step back and look at your movie. You cannot do this when you're on set. On set, you're like, and especially me, because I'm camera operated. Not all the movies, but like when I have like 2 cameras, I will camera operate one and steady cam, and I'm really like in the weeds. I'm looking at the frame, and I get the sense of the thing, but I don't get to be in a trailer relaxing, looking at the scene from the day before. I'm really like in the moment, in the now with the actor, which is with the actors, and it's good because I'm very focused in the now. I'm never on my phone, like I don't even try to email me when I'm on the shoot. I will not be able to answer. So it's the thing. So I'm really focused, but pre-production allows me to get a sense of my movie. It's sort of like how I want to tell it, and then afterwards I get a lot of collaborators and actors and crew members, and they bring their genius, and that's what makes the movie what it is. Often it's kind of like I get a good sense of where I want to take it, but then I surround myself with the right people and they take it all together. In the old expression, it takes a village. Like it really does take a village, takes a crew, and we really bring it to the next level together.
Amazing. And when you were making Dark Crystal, you were holding the camera, like you were operating the camera rig and all that, and it was kind of like making 5 feature films or more. I think like 10 feature films, kind of like together.
No, completely, absolutely. Well, it's another thing also with puppets. Some stuff looks good, some stuff looks bad, and you have to capture it in the moment. It's quite heavy, and we didn't have that many takes, so I was like, I might as well really be there. And then when I see that something is not working, I reframe quickly and I just do this and just do that. So anyway, that's what I did. Right, look, Felisa and all. This is downtown Los Angeles. There we go. That's where my office is. So we went from Malibu.
I missed the place.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. But Taron Egerton, he said that you were kind of laid back and mellow, like, even with tackling such an inhuman task. How do you manage to do that on set?
Well, Dark Crystal was easier because we were easier. It was very hard. It was very hard work, but it was one stage, always the same. Like Dark Crystal was very comfortable because we started at 8 every day and we finished at 6 every day. There was never, over time, there was never this. It was like we knew what we were doing. The actors were ready because they were in their puppets. You bring them out of the box, and then you have to maintain them. But that's behind the scene. But when I said shoot, we were ready and we were shooting, and the puppeteers were amazing. The crew was amazing. So it was like it was more like Dark Crystal was more like a marathon because it was very amazing crew, everything, but it was very much me. It was my singular vision, no other director. I was, with the writer and the writing team, show running the thing, and it was very much me. So, stress on movie shoots off. It's often because something goes wrong. The weather. This didn't happen right. The weather didn't do the car.
Talk about it.
Yeah, the car that was supposed to explode and go this way exploded and fell in the water, and you're like, stress. How do I do that? This was movie shoots are like controlled chaos, and that's what's fun, But the stress actually on Dark Crystal, it was controlled chaos. Puppets, and you have to. In the morning, nothing is real. Like really, nothing is real. But you have to create it all. But once you sort of like find a groove and find again musical reference, when you find something that you're like you and your band, you're jamming and you find your groove and your puppeteers are doing their stuff. Now you feel good, you feel comfortable, you feel good all together. It's not like one person went like, I wasn't as good, and can I do another one? We feel it because we all see it because we work off monitors, so we see what we got together. So it's like it was pleasant, it was nice. And then Taron and the voice cast, like Anya Taylor-Joy, Alicia Vikander, Natalie Manuel, Mark Hamill, like everyone. We just had a great time in the doing the voices. It was just like an amazing, Jason Isaacs. We literally had the best voice cast in the world. It's funny, like it's been like 3 years, and I'm like thinking about it again. I'm like, wow, I was one-on-one with all these actors for so many months. It's exceptional. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. You never realize it. You sometimes you realize it. Like you have to pinch yourself, but like often you don't realize it. Often you realize it after the fact. You're like, I wish I was like, I had an out of body experience, realizing what I was living. Like,
I hear you. I get that quite a lot these days. But yeah. Talking about Unleashed, I've always been curious, like, why did you guys go with that very specific high contrast, grungy kind of look? It was cool at the same time and kind of different from anything that I've seen. I haven't seen anything of that sort like recently either.
Yeah, because you know what I want? I wanted to make a movie that was already old. I wanted to make a movie that was already obsolete. Just because all these sort of like, you have to realize all the movies from the 90s, most of the movies from the 90s using martial arts and everything were instantly dated because they put a rap song and a this and the cool, FUBU, cool, streetwear and all that stuff. And then you were like, and Unleashed, I was like, I just want to do something where the guy wears a crappy wool sweater and all the cars, like there's no new car, like everything was like really old to them. the music by Massive Attack. I got Massive Attack, but I didn't get them to do some Massive Attack stuff. I got them to do some really weird sound designy, ping plongy stuff that just was beautiful. But then it was like, and that was my thing. And also I wanted to make it gets warmer, but you see the movie starts cold and gray, and blue, and then it falls into something a bit warmer when he meets Morgan Freeman. And Kerry Condon, and then he eventually, the movie finishes when they're in the concert hall with something that is really beautiful, like full of colors and everything. And that was my evolution. It's kind of like I made it. I put myself there for the audience in Jet Li's character's in Danny's mind. You know, it's just like I really wanted an eye, an ear. Like everything is very impressionistic, but in a personal character level. You know? So that's what I did on that niche. But it's funny. It's you watch it again. I watched it again recently. I was like, it's a little bit too extreme. I think it was my second movie, and I was like, I really wanted to. It was my second movie, and also the one that I was like, my second movie as a director, but this first one as a solo director. I was
director.
I'm gonna show the world, where it's like, but also I'm French and artistic. Let me show you. And Luc Besson was amazing because he let me do everything I wanted, but at the same time, it's like, okay, now as a producer myself, I would have questioned and said, I see what you're doing, but go a little easy. Those green skin tones are not so pleasant on the eye.
True, but I mean, it has its own style and kind of stands out from the rest. And
fighting style also, like we had Wu Ping,
Yang Wu Ping,
Wu Ping, the amazing martial arts master as our fight choreographer, and with all his crew, and with we call him Sifu, means master. With Sifu, we created a style that never been done before. It was like fighting like a street dog. And that was new and fun. Look, there's not going to be any camera shake anymore. It's gonna be very exciting. There we go. So yeah, we created this style that was just like a bunch of fighting styles all together, but ultimately very violent, but ultimately again, like elegant in its own way, new and elegant in its own way. That's what we did.
100%. Speaking of collaboration, like what you mentioned with Sifu, Yang Wu Ping, got a question here regarding that. So when we share a script or the idea with the crew, if the crew members ask to change some scenes, do we really have to change the script with the other's ideas, or how can we manage a situation like that? With your experience, do you think changing a scene with their opinion would kind of make it better?
No, all the time. But I mean, they know. First of all, there's a pyramidal organization, obviously, in the movie business. So it's kind of like the producer in America, but like the director and
the hierarchy,
and sort of like but it's kind of like it's a hierarchy, but it's a very it's almost like a family hierarchy. It's a very there's respect for each other's thing. It's not like there's no boss, but like the director doesn't know how to do the DP's job, most of them, but at the same time the DP is not going to go like, no, I'm not going to do, if you don't do my thing, I'm not going to like your scene. So there's like something kind of like nice about that. So anyway, we get on. Yes, the answer is absolutely, and yes, please. And I always encourage when I work with meet new crew and everything. I was like, bring me your ideas. Bring me all the best ideas, because at the end of the day, I don't care. It's my name at the end, on the poster, and you make me look better. So just give me all the great ideas. So which allows everyone to be open about questions and everything. Now they know when to do it. Like for example, right now in prep, I'm working with Andrew Menzies, this great production designer, and he gives me lots of great notes about the script. from like, you know, he's thinking about stuff. He's like, well, what if this thing was that thing? And you know, instead of like an elf, it's an orc. And I'm like, okay, oh, very interesting. Let me think about this. And it's because we're like months away from shooting it, we can do this. Obviously, that won't happen on the day. On the day, it's more, yeah, like the DP. The DP says, you know, today's cloudy. Why don't we, you know, I know when we went scouting, we're shooting on that street, but look at this alley. Isn't it looking much better? And I can bring a light here, or, you know, and do a wet down, and it's gonna do a backlight. It's gonna be great. That's the type of stuff that I love. It's sort of like it's scary. It's like, you know, just to have, I mean, those big movies, it's crew of like 500 people with like giant actors, and you just don't want to, and they're very expensive days, so you don't want to. And I like to have time to think, so I don't want to be like pressed up with everybody, so like looking at me like, what are we doing, Louis? But if already brings an idea, and you know, it's a great collaboration. That's the best. That's the best scenario for me.
And as a leader, just to add to that question, you know, what attributes do you think are like imperative to kind of get to, you know, keep motivating such a large group of people day in, day out? Because you go on shooting for, you know, quite a long period of time.
Well, my thing is, we become a family. So you know, it's true. Like, some sets are like a family. They're like this weird microcosm, and every, you know, it's like camp. You know, it's just like, you know, the first day of school or camp, you're like, that I'll never become friends with this person. And then 2 months later, they're like your best friend, and you know, you kind of you want to run away with them and never see your parents again. So it's kind of like the same thing. You're like, first like, I don't like this person, and eventually they become your thing. So I like to cultivate this in a very respectful way, but at the same time, I want everybody to feel free and to feel safe and to feel this. I think one of the great it's becoming hard now. It's become really hard with COVID and the COVID things, where like no one can see each other's face. But I like that. I want respect on my crew. I want humor. I want speed, but I want speed, but not in the detriment of people's health and safety. That's very much this. And what I do, like a simple thing that I do, is that I will learn, you know, just like I learn my script and the lines for the actors and all that stuff, and the actors learn their lines and all that stuff. I learn the crew list. I learn everybody's name. I do a little bit of a research to see what movies they worked on, if we have friends in common, if they did this, you know, or enemies. Sometimes it's very good to have enemies in common. But yeah, no. So I really, that's what I do. I think it's part of the, that's part of the, you know, writer, whatever, sort of like director, producer homework. Like when you're the leader, when it's you have to lead by example. And if you're kind and fair and self-deprecating, in a sense, like you need to be self-deprecating, but not to a fault. Like, you know, I like, as a Frenchman, I'm very self-hating, self-deprecating, but but not to a fault, because otherwise the crew goes like, well, you know, if that guy doesn't believe in his vision, why am I believing in his vision? But I think like sometimes when you do this and it doesn't work, you're like, okay, wait, it doesn't work. You know, sorry, I thought it would be great. You know, I was wrong. Often, I mean, more often than not, it will work. But like, you know, when it doesn't work, learn to say, sorry, I was wrong, guys. You know. And just keep going.
True. And we have a little shout out. So massive shout out on Clash of the Titans. Watched it again recently after like so many years. So good.
Oh, thank you. I might have a little surprise for you soon. But yeah. So cool.
Ooh, interesting. And you know, when it comes to this particular movie, Now You See Me, I think you, out of all the movies you've done, you mentioned that it's the one that kind of like feels close to home, or it's more you. I read that up somewhere, but why is that? And if I got that fact wrong, do correct me.
No, you're very right. That's also something I say every interview of every movie I make. No, but no, that's not true. No.
You're just making me feel good.
It's just between us and all your viewers. But no, that's not true. It's true that Now You See Me is a script that I really I found, and it was different, and we shaped it the way it was. The cast was very much the cast of my friends, Marco Folo, and all these guys. They're like really, obviously Morgan that I work with. They're very much. It's very much a movie that felt that this movie, the movie, the tone, the cast, the music, the camera movement, everything, just it's very me. It's very controlled by me. It's not. It's a studio movie, but it's controlled by me. It's interesting. Clash is a really fun movie and everything, but Clash was my second movie, but really first studio movie with Warner Brothers, and they were like destroying me, Warner's, when I was making this movie. It was a really difficult experience to make this movie. I love it, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm making this giant sword and sandal movie and everything, but I was miserable making this movie. But it's been a long time, and I've grown. They've changed jobs and everything, people. But I feel like now it's kind of like it's Now You See Me was just a movie where it was the right studio with the right cast, with the right producers, with the right everything felt right. It was just felt right. It was difficult because it was a very hot story to tell with a very it's like precision. It's like you know it's
Yeah.
like precision work, like creating a amazing clock watch. It's like you have to be really careful, otherwise it's just the bezel will come out. I mean, this was very it was like this. Like I couldn't tip my hand. I don't want to, maybe some of your viewers haven't seen the stuff, so I won't reveal the twist. But it was very hard to manage that stuff. Same thing for Lupin. It's a tough show. Shows like this where you sort of like keep the audience guessing, but you're sort of like look here, but don't look there, and pay attention. But you need to look there enough so when it hits. When at the end it really hits you in the heart. So you're like, oh my god, that's the person I love the most because he was the underdog or this or that.
Yeah. How do you manage that particular telling of the story, like all those precise details? How do you manage to kind of like, how do you know when to emphasize on one particular moment and then gradually reveal certain bits of information? Like, how does that?
You think when you read.
Mm-hmm.
So when you read your script, you have a feeling, it's an initial feeling, and then you're like, okay, I love this script, that's the movie I want to make, and then you sort of like you circle the moments that you really want to highlight. Then you work on those moments, and you might overwork them too much, so they become something else. But then other moments start popping. Then you do a cast, and you do this. It's a little bit of what we mentioned when that sort of like collaboration and the different steps of movie making, but you need to keep it open. And frankly, you kind of make your movie in the editing room. You've gathered all the pieces. Like I feel like I'm often a little like I will shoot a little bit more than I need just because sometimes because I've edited many movies, not mine, out of mine, so I've got a bit of an editor's brain, and I know what I need and what I eventually will, the secret ammunition that I will need, the secret weapon that I will need to sort of like change something or push something. So I will overshoot that stuff, but it's you get a sense of the movie you're about to make in prep. You get a sense of what the movie you have in during production, and then you really understand the movie you have. And sometimes you're disappointed, or most of the time you love it, but sometimes you're like, oh, that scene that I thought would be amazing, it's just dull, and then you cut it out, and you're like, there are many scenes, one or two that I remember like fighting really hard because I really need that scene. It's very important for the thing, and then you realize, nah, just don't need it. Clack clack, or scenes that I knew were going to be. I was not sure about that end up turning out amazingly thanks to the actors, the light that the DP did, or the edit, or just the editing and the music. Or, you put like a certain music on just a push in, a certain shot that's just a simple push in on an actor emoting, and the combo of the actor's amazing performance, the subtle camera move, and then the amazing music just makes it just explode in your mind. So,
what about creative control? Like, you often hear about stories, like even you have them, where the studio or some power higher up kind of interferes with the director's creative vision, and
yeah,
that creative control.
It's not. I'm not a freak of creative control. I'm more for transparency. It's like what I don't like is when what I don't like. What's the least pleasurable is when you're doing something and then when you all set out to do something and then somebody comes in at the 11th hour having never been in a meeting, and then and they have their studio exec or one of the producer and say, well, I don't think you should do this and you should do that and you have to do it and everything, and it's like, just be there before agree to do this thing. I mean, it's fine to improvise or to realize something and just to go. Often everybody heads in the same direction, but when something is I don't like to play. Basically, I don't like to play politics. Like I will do anyone's great note and great idea, but I will fight to not do a note when I know it's not a good note, but also it comes from a wrong place. Like, it's like, don't give me 4 pages of note just because you need to give me 4 pages of note. Give me 4 pages of amazing notes to actually make the thing go forward. Or don't give me and I will respect you the same way. Or whatever. If you're like, yeah, I really like the movie, and you have to be a person. I'm not asking for ideas, or if you have a great idea, give me an idea. But it's kind of like, just we've all done this long enough. Just tell me the second act doesn't work. For me, first act is great. Third act works really well. Second act doesn't work. That's a very easy note for me, and I totally get that. Just don't. We can get in the weeds afterwards and get really picky about stuff afterwards. But like in the beginning, just like be broad and just especially movies are just they're or TV shows they're organisms. They're alive. They're alive until you sort of like block them. So it's just like, but that's it. I love collaboration. I have no problem getting input from anyone, whether it's a crew member, an actor, or a studio exec. I love that.
Gotcha. Zan has got a question. Hi, Louis. Big fan of your work. Do you like being known as a director of a particular genre or producing a particular genre of movies? Or do you like experimenting with different kinds of genres? And if so, how do you keep yourself from not using the same patterns of directing throughout all your movies? Like, how different will you try to keep each movie?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think at the end of my career, people will look at my body of work and be like, yeah, that guy had no career plan. Like, he had he didn't know. It's like you can get very famous, very rich, making the same movie over and over and over again, perfecting your style, doing all that stuff. What I don't do that, because what I love about making movies, cinema as a whole, what I love as a audience member, because you're not going to see as an audience member the same movie every day. You're not going to see a Marvel. If you love Marvel movies, you're not going to see just Marvel movies. That's going to be But if and your world will expand, so you'll do Marvel movies, then you'll do the Star Wars, then you'll do the Raiders, then you'll do Back to the Future, blah, blah, and then your world will expand this way. I'm trying to do the same thing as a creator, as like a director also, because what I love about my job is that I get to live a different life every couple of years. So for Now You See Me, I was a magician for 2 years. For Dark Crystal, I was a puppeteer for 3, 4, 5 years. How long it took? So I mean, they're also there. It's not as crystal clear because they sort of like intermingle. So it's not like. But when I'm shooting, I'm very much shooting one thing, and I'm very much in this world. I just did an action movie in France, and I hadn't done after Lupin, and Lupin was just I hadn't done. Although I'm French, I hadn't done anything in the French language. It was very interesting to do this and shoot in Paris and Paris for Paris. It was very interesting. So doing all that stuff is very cool. It doesn't. It's not great for my career because it doesn't firm up my position as like say Michael Bay. Michael Bay is great, but Michael Bay will do pretty much the same movie over and over and over again, and they're great. And you know what you're going to see. Like when you go see a Michael Bay movie, you're going to know
what to expect.
Well, you know what to expect. When you see a Leterrier movie, like you don't really know. I mean, some like you see Unleashed, and you're like, oh great, I'm going to see. Oh, he did a movie with Sacha Baron Cohen. I can't wait for Sacha Baron Cohen to fight. And that they're not the same thing. Or the puppets, like or Lupin, they're not the same. There's a common thread, but I think the common thread is in the tone.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of like this lively, bubbly, yet emotional, but like tongue in cheek a little bit. That's my tone because it's very much me. But I don't think there's a stylistic thing. I mean, it's funny. I told myself the other day, I was just like, you move your camera too much. Like I was just like, stop moving your camera. Force yourself to. Well, I have to find the right script, but like maybe do one movie where you just do perfectly composed shots. I'm friendly with David Fincher, and then we were talking about doing something together. He told me, I was like, yeah, Steadicam. I was like, yeah, we won't be using Steadicam. I was like, oh, okay, David, yeah, okay, yeah. He's like, I hate Steadicam. Yeah, camera has to be like this and firm and move from A to B, like which is great. And these movies are perfect. They're perfect. And I was like, okay, yes, David, you're right. But it's funny. It's like it's funny challenge yourself. I find it funny to challenge myself. It's funny. I find it exciting for me because I'm not copying my style. I'm doing something new, and I get creative. The good thing I was so lucky. My Transporter. I was 26 when I did it. 26, 27. So I started becoming a filmmaker pretty early on, which means that I wasn't able to work with great filmmakers for that long. Like I finished film school when I was 22, and I was able to work with Jean-Pierre Jeunet, Luc Besson, Jean-Paul Sartre, Alain Chabat, amazing French directors. And in America, I saw the Palmer shoot but from a distance and this and that and John McTiernan. But I saw them from a distance, but I wasn't able to work closely with them like a DP would or an editor would. It's like there's a lot of filmmakers that became filmmakers later in their career and were like really hit because their stuff was like so good because they learned from the masters. I don't know, like Stuber, like Pete Hyams. I mean, there's a lot of DPs or editors that became or writers that became directors, and I think that's interesting. But it's good. It just gives me I'm challenging myself. Like I like to challenge myself.
Sure, and I think like you subvert expectations quite a lot. Like having seen your previous work, and then I went into watch Now You See Me, I was like, this is different.
Yeah.
It's like totally different from pretty much everything else. And I think that's I think what's common is the fact that your movies are not common, like not similar to each other.
No, but it's good. Well, it's good. Yeah, I mean, it's good. What I love is that I go to Comic-Con, to like convention, whatever, to do this, and I'm as a fan, and no one knows me. Like no one knows what I look like. No one knows that. Oh, that's the guy that did. Like I started 5-6 franchises, and no one knows that I did. It's not like I'm like the guy behind. I'm not George. It's like obviously I'm not George Lucas, but like I'm George Lucas. It's hard to be George Lucas and to be. I mean, it's pretty great to be George Lucas, but it's like you're the guy that did this and that. George Lucas is not going to be a Sacha Baron, could have never done a Sacha Baron Cohen movie. It's like you just you do something so big, you just have to keep doing this thing so big, And I'm like, I'm always in the middle, and I'm happy to be in that middle. It's kind of doesn't mean that I'm not going to give everything to my. I really will, really bust my tail to make the best movie possible, but I will disappear behind the movie. I think that's what it's. I think that's this. I sort of like. Yes. I like to disappear behind the movie stars. Like that's the movie, the movie stars. That's what people are excited by, and not.
Gotcha. And talking about the audience, I think we have a good question here. To what extent do you think about what your audience wants? Do you count on them understanding what's happening on screen, or do you only focus on how you want to tell the story? For example, something like a sleight of hand moment in a film like Now You See Me. Do you think about what if they miss the detail?
Yeah, no, of course. I always think of the audience. I mean, I have to. It's it's not like I'm not a sculptor or painter that's alone in my studio, and no one is like by definition, I need the audience to live. So, and because that's the sort of movie, the type of movies I've decided to direct, I would like to directing because I liked watching them. It's entertainment, so I need the audience. So, yeah, I'm very aware. I'm respectful. I'm the first audience to my movie because I'm the first one to find the script, and then afterwards I'm too much into the script because I rewrite it. Then I bring another audience, just my crew, then the cast, then the studio, then we do test screenings, with an audience that's never seen it, and then they give me their feedback, which doesn't mean that I have to completely agree with them, but at least I'm like, okay, oh yeah, you're uncomfortable here. Well, I want to keep you uncomfortable here because I know the payoff will be stronger at the end. But if they're like, oh, uncomfortable here, well, I don't want you to be uncomfortable, so let me fix that. So these are important. But I think it's an audience medium. So we, it's like an audience interact. It's very, although I actually don't think that movie watching is a passive experience. I think it's a very active experience. I think especially, hopefully the theaters will be able to reopen, but when you see a movie in a movie theater, it's a very active. You although you don't go like, but you feel the audience. You feel the audience around you, and you feel that.
100%, yeah.
So you on Now You See Me, it was very important because there are some. That's a good question. Because there's some tricks in my Now You See Me that, like crowd forces, and everything that I wanted the whole audience to see, because I wanted them to, because magic and movie making, they're all brother, sister, enemy. They stem from the same root, but at the same time they break each other, because the moment you cut the shot, and also because everybody knows that visual effects exist, the magic of it all doesn't work. The magic is about the now, the moment. Like, pick a card, any card. And in the pick a card, any card, that Jesse Eisenberg does in the beginning, there's a 7 of diamond that appears, and all of the audience has seen the 7 of diamond, although they've seen they've picked the 7 of diamond, although they've seen every card of the deck, and that's called a force. And I can teach you how to do that, but I won't, because I'm a magician, and magicians don't reveal their tricks. No, but it was important to do. It was very important to do that, because then you're like, okay, I'm watching a magic movie. It's not somebody who's telling me, accept it, it's a magic movie. I'm watching a movie, and they've already tricked me by minute 2. I'm gonna be tricked the entire movie, and that was interesting to do that. But that's the dialogue. Although the audience is not instantly dialoguing with me, but that's the dialogue I want to create with the audience. And now with shows, it's with Netflix, what I'm doing, I think Dark Crystal had an emotional dialogue, but it was more passive. And I think Lupin there's more of an interactive dialogue when I do Lupin. It's more like Now You See Me.
It's a very nice way of putting it, like that movie watching is an active experience. I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, you're right. whole different perspective.
Yeah, because they say, everybody says that movie making, movie watching is a passive, that only gaming is an active experience. Yes, I mean, gaming completely actively do this, but at the same time, now with
I think that's more interactive, right?
well, it's
Whereas,
interactive. Well, it's an
yeah.
interactive, but it's it's an interactive, therefore active experience. But like it's like you actually act the stuff and you interact the stuff. But then at the same time, people still love with Twitch and everything, love to watch video game playing and imagine the stories and the thing and the play and and the different plays and everything. It's like games. It's like sports. You watch sports and yet you can feel the emotion and everything. So I think we as a human race love to feel, and I think with that's what we do. And I think you can change mediums, watch stuff on a giant IMAX screen, medium size, TV, and then your iPhone. It's different, but you still feel something, hopefully.
True. I want to go back to Incredible Hulk, which you directed in 2007, and you apparently wanted to take a pass at Iron Man, but what was available was Hulk, because Jon Favreau had already taken dibs on that movie.
So I had become very friendly with Marvel, and really it was like working with them actively, and they were, they have that big poster, with all the, I don't know who drew it, whether it's Alex Ross, right? With all the characters just like coming in and running up, and they're like, okay, pick a character, any character, which one would you like to do? I'm like, well, I'm seeing one, everything, and they're like this, and I tell them, and obviously it's Iron Man. I was like, oh yeah, I give them my pitch on Iron Man, and I basically describe the Hulk, but in Iron Man. He's sort of like, yeah, he's a misunderstood character, and he's like, it's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing, and he needs to be it's just sort of like, dude, that's stuff. But then I was like, I was pitching Iron Man, and then Avi Arad, who was the head of Marvel then, and Kevin Feige, they called me. I was in France, and they're like, oh, we have great news for you. We want to work with you. Oh, wow, amazing. That's because that was my dream to work with Marvel, because I grew up reading comic books. So I said, oh, amazing. I was like, so, oh, wow. And we want you to do one of the characters, an iconic character. I was like, oh my God, that character. Yes. Somebody that you really love. And I'm like, oh wow, because I told them obviously I love, but I was like, oh, Ang Lee has done his movie 3 years before. I'm not going to do this. I was like, oh. And this character is, and I'm saying Iron, and they're like Hulk. I was like, oh great, that's fantastic. I was like, what? No, I was like, what? Do Hulk? But Ang just did his movie. It's like, yeah, but we want to. Your approach, your take, your sensibility. I think it's more what we want to do with the beginning of our studio. That was the beginning of Marvel Studios. They're like, the Hulk. Ang Lee's Hulk is very much Ang Lee's Hulk. And that's why it's called Ang Lee's Hulk. It's very much his vision. It's an artist's vision. It's amazing. We want to take it a little bit more into the mainstream. Obviously, Hulk is a different character, and it's not like, at least an origin story is not a laugh a minute type of a thing, But I told them about the Incredible Hulk, the TV show, and how I felt when watching it, and it was quite an emotional viewing. They're like, that's when you told us this, we're like, that's the Hulk we want to make, Hulk on the road. You want to have what I told them is like, I want the audience to fall in love with I want the audience to come to see the Hulk for the Hulk, but I want them to fall in love with Banner, so they don't want him to turn into the Hulk. So I want the audience, again, like this interactive thing, I want the audience to be like, no, don't get angry, don't do this. It's just, and you're like, oh wait, but hold on, I'm eating popcorn, I can't wait to see the Hulk. So there's a little bit of that push-pull that operated, and that was a fun thing to do with the Hulk.
Definitely. And I think like the Hulk in that version was like pretty savage, and like you actually feel the whole internal conflict between Edward Norton's Bruce Banner and the Hulk. That tension was like very visibly there. Did you have any idea, like at the time that Marvel Studios was planning something as massive as the MCU back then?
No, and that was the one. Zach Penn and I were the ones like winking and telling them, that wouldn't be great if we could put all your characters in there. So for example, there's a scene in my cut that's not in the studio cut, where Banner is in the North Pole. In the beginning, we went to the North Pole to shoot that, and he tries to commit suicide. He tries to do this, and then he hulks up. You don't see him; it's all point of view, but you see him with the gun that he was going to, take to his head, in his hand broken, and he crushes it, and he gets angry, and he hits. I don't know. Maybe you can find it on DVD or on the web, and then he breaks a huge glacier, and then there's a massive wave, and in that wave we put the shield, we put Cap's shield,
Captain America. Yeah.
So and that was my thing. I was like, okay, I wanted to create a Rube Goldberg, like a domino effect of all the characters. So I was like, okay, the Banner does that, he does that, which frees Steve Rogers, which then eventually gets and then we wanted to do bookends. We wanted to do this, do that. There's Stark everywhere in the, you Stark industry stuff everywhere. There's mention of all that stuff. And at the end, obviously, Robert Downey Jr. walks into the bar and tells Thunderbolt Ross, come and work with us. We're creating something which is eventually going to be the Avengers. So us who? Yeah, the Avengers. So that was the thing, but it was a wish. It was it was just a fan wish. It was not a reality. So no one at the time, because again, Marvel, when Jon Favreau and I did Hulk and he did Iron Man, we started. Marvel was an independent studio. It was not. So they were making the movie independently and then selling them to other studios, and then so there was no. It was very much. It was kind of like outside of even like what X-Men was doing, or Spider-Man. Iron Man and the Hulk, my Hulk, Incredible Hulk, were two expensive indie movies. That's what they were, but like with no plan to get any bigger. They were experiments.
Yeah. Brilliant. And when it comes to the whole world building side of things, how do you decide which elements to put? I mean, I know that there's quite a lot of lore when it comes to comic books. You have elements to borrow, but how do you decide? All right, this is going to be a common element across these movies. I'm going to pawn this Easter egg here, and that's going to pay off sometime later.
You do it. It's between you, the screenwriter, the actor, Kevin Feige, Steven Broussard on Hulk, and like you sort of like, it's between us, the fans, sort of like we're like, oh yeah, remember in comic book blah blah, Doc Samson, we should use Doc Samson as one of the characters because he could be a cool character eventually. We need to put, like, for example, one of the things that's amazing is like Abomination, like I put Tim Roth because I wanted Tim Roth, Emil Blonsky to be a cool character as in the Marvel universe, and because he's an amazing actor. But then Tim got busy with all his TV shows and all these movies, and he was not available until now. And in the Shang-Chi trailer, you see Abomination in the back. So I'm like, oh, and I hear that Tim was in there. So and so it's kind of like you put Easter eggs, and planting Easter eggs is like planting seeds. Like, sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't. Like, there's many Easter eggs in Dark Crystal and all my movies and all this stuff that no one will ever see, and it's fine by me.
Gotcha. Well, we're kind of at the 1 hour mark. We exceeded the 1 hour mark, and we kind of got to wrap up. But Lisa here has a little compliment for you. So you decide to reinvent and follow the chemistry/music of your crew is very Russo of you. So I'm so hit when you also, but it's true that but I think it's sort of you don't make a movie by yourself. Don't fool yourself when thinking that I'm an artist and everything. You have to be a social person. You have to like, ultimately you have to like people to make movies. That's the thing. So you're making movies with people for the people. So and I think ultimately
it's just one big. It's tough, but it's one big long amazing adventure to making a movie that ends up in a glorious fireworks on a fizzled hill. Like, but it's kind of like funny. It's every movie is a wonderful journey. So if Lisa, if your fans are filmmakers, just like budding filmmakers, early filmmakers, like just really like do what I always hope to do. Sort of like pinch yourself, have this out of body experience, realize every day. Kind of like do what I did on Transporter every day, trying to experience the best version of that day. Just realize that we're making. You're in the best. You have the best job in the world, and you're in the some of the most exciting industry in the world, and with the very exciting people that have worked on the stuff that has changed your life. And there are some people that actually don't care about movies, so it's not this. But we do this job because we love movies. So be curious, ask people, ask the people that have done movies, but also ask the people that don't know anything about movies, that you go around the world and travel and and just meet during your travels and working in different countries, like Sri Lanka when I'm coming. And then I will let me come in to Sri Lanka and then experience the culture and meet the people. So it's great. All right.
Oh yeah, 100%. All everything's ready. You have a place to stay. You have multiple places to stay. Pretty sure about all of that. And we'll take you out for a ride once all this shit's kind of like died down.
Hopefully. All right, cool. Thanks, Akash. That was amazing. Thanks. Great.
Thank you so much, Lee. Thank you so much for joining.
And then there was a action. There was action.
An action-packed
in front and behind
podcast. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lee. Thank you everyone for joining. Till then, this is Junkyard Theory, folks.